Every once in a while, I find myself driven to dark, gritty, depressing, and emotionally draining stories. As I've always said, I have a wide variety of tastes when it comes to many things, especially video games. In this case, I decided to step out of my usual box once more for a little game called A Plague Tale: Innocence. Something that I've had my eye on since the emotionally charged reveal trailer about a year ago. I finally took some time to sit down and play through the first 3 hours of the game, and this will be my experience and impressions from those first few hours. I will do my best to avoid major spoilers for anyone looking to play the game for the first time after seeing this. I was immediately impressed with the opening of the game in terms of visual aesthetic and presentation. The colorful leaves of the wooded area the game has me walking through reminded me of how much I love the autumn season. I was placed in the shoes of a young girl named Amicia as she walks through the woods with her dog Leon and her father.
Look at Leon! The Guian beast is in a hurry to fight it out!
The accent of the characters immediately gave way that the game takes place in France, and that the clothing and the use of the word Lord being thrown around reminded me of Game of Thrones. Oh, and also that it takes place in the medieval era, I guess. After some quick tutorializing and a poor attempt at trying to hunt a wild boar with a sling, things quickly take a dark turn, forcing our poor Amicia and her brother Hugo out into the world on their own to survive. And that all happens in the first hour. The following hour revolved around me running through a town looking for help, only to find out that all of its citizens have locked themselves in their homes or have had their doors marked as quarantine due to the plague.
Oh look, someone's drawn something on the doors.
Come back here! That means there are sick people in these houses. Don't touch anything.
Oh, they're not allowed to go outside.
It's more serious than that. It means that we could catch their illness, so stop running around.
Yep, that's right. The game is centered around the Black Death. Heavily implied by its name, of course. I was then thrown into a chase sequence that had me running through linear paths, climbing over ledges, and helping Hugo through small holes to open up pathways for me to progress. In my mind, I had already built up what to expect from this game, even more so when I was moving through and learning the various stealth situations it puts you through early on. But what I didn't expect was the game to open up into a crafting system that allowed me to craft upgrades to storage space for materials and rocks for distractions, and to upgrade Amicia's sling. And what I also wasn't expecting was the eventual boss fight that followed. A rather simple one at the end of the day, but it made clear to me that there was more to this game than I originally thought, and that the ability to kill opponents with Amicia's sling is now an option. The next chapter had me finding my way through a church to meet a monk that tried to warn us to leave town because it wasn't safe. Obviously, considering we had people trying to kill us just before this. I spent time wandering around the beautifully crafted environment, picking up collectibles and materials for crafting my way to see the monk, and when I finally arrived, the tone of the game took a dramatic shift from stealth survival to just plain survival. I was no longer trying to hide from Englishmen in armor looking to murder us. I was now trying to keep a torch lit and plenty of light around me to avoid getting devoured by swarms of rats. I also noticed that there is a puzzle-like component to this part of the gameplay, where I was constantly looking around the environment for ways to maneuver around the rats or manipulate them in a way that creates a chance for me to move forward. And that comprised my second hour with the game. The third hour was now a fight for survival, as myself and Hugo had to rely upon each other to make our way through the rat horde, pools of blood, and dead bodies. It almost gave the game a supernatural-like theme to it, as the rats pose the most imminent threat in the game thus far. At some point while crossing farmland, swarms of rats would pour out of pits from the ground or feast on the dead bodies of farm animals that were stacked up in an attempt to distract them and create safe passage. This became rather tense for me in a situation where I was surrounded by rats and pools of animal blood in the field. I had to use the bridges across from one torch to another at a reasonable speed, and if I fell into the blood, it would slow me down to a crawl as Amicia would slowly wade through the almost molasses-like pool. Overall, my impressions of A Plague Tale are pretty positive. Looking back on those first 3 hours, I really enjoyed the tension that came with stealthing my way around enemies and watching the game's story change and evolve as I go. It's a game that some people would write off as a budget title at first glance, but upon diving in, one would be hard-pressed to tell it different from high-profile AAA games today. I look forward to seeing this one through, and we'll be doing a full review of the game in the very near future. If you enjoyed these impressions, feel free to like and subscribe to see more content like this, and also leave a comment below and tell us about your experience with the game so far, or if you're interested in checking it out. As always, it's Corrupt Ronin telling you to stay sharp, assassins, and I'll see you next time.